Oh, I want to share real quickly. He did an equation. I want to say an equation, but he left a I don't know what we'll call it. Just kind of, I'll say an equation for lack right now. On his Instagram, he said ability plus ambition divided by anointing equals accomplishment. Had me scratch my head, I definitely had to have a conversation with them in regards to it. So we're going to break down each word and a question posing from that. So let's first all start off with the ability. Look up the definition. Ability is the power or capacity to do or act physically, mentally, legally, morally, financially, etc. It's the competence in an activity or occupation because of one's skill, training, or other qualification. So I want to ask you. So I want to ask you a question, Doc. Is my ability to be effective for ministry determined by my ambition or determined by something else?
No,
let me ask you one other question with it. Is the question how ambitious am I, or what am I supposed to do with my ability?
You know what? I would say your ability is defined simply by the intrinsic value that's in you.
So it's already in you.
It's already in you. Okay. Those intuitive things, okay. That raw material, that's your ability. You and I both know, there's a lot of guys who want to preach,
right?
Who have ambition to preach and know pastor and all that kind of stuff, but they just don't have the ability, man.
Gotcha. And, I want you right.
I love preachers, but I mean, you know what I mean. Some, I've seen people that have ambition to do a lot of things, but they just don't have the ability. They just can't do it.
But can that be developed? Is preaching a skill?
Preaching.
Preaching.
Preaching. Preaching. In essence,
I get Jason Lewis stepping up on the seat. What up,
I would say preaching is just the conveying of the gospel message. And I mean, anybody can preach. Anybody can preach, but when we're talking about graces and true callings, things of that nature, I think that's something that we don't have any control over. I think that if you can preach, you can be a preacher, but not God necessarily didn't call you to preach. You know what I mean? There's a lot of I can play ball, I can go ball. You know what I mean? But LeBron James is a basketball player.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? I can play basketball. So that's different. There's a difference.
Gotcha.
Those things were put in him before he was born. You know what I mean? Kind of like that's the word that God speaks to Jeremiah. You know what I mean? It's about that stuff that's in you that doesn't have to be conjured. It may need to be stirred from time to time, as Paul with Timothy, but it's already there.
It's natural.
It's natural. It's not an additive. It's not anything that's given to you, but it's already been imparted on you from God.
Okay. So when it comes to dealing with my ability, you're saying it's me focusing on what's natural to me. It's in my DNA.
Yes, it's
I don't have to conjure it up.
No. It's really taking time to learn yourself.
Yeah.
And that's something that that was hard for me in ministry, because I kind of like my pastorate walked hand in hand with me finding myself.
See.
You know what I mean? And so about 3
So
or 4
he wasn't a complete person.
Oh, heck no, man. I was 18, man. I didn't know, dude.
He must have been put together 18.
Oh man.
So you still finding yourself
from Revelation, dude. I was all over the place. But as I've learned myself, and even for those, and I thank God for the people who have been with me all 12 years, or even, prior to me being a pastor, there's a few people left, you know what I mean?
Wow.
And they've been able to see the progression and the growth, and now just me coming into my own. I believe one of my grandfather, his only son, and his wife, they're still here, my uncle and aunt, the Dukes. And every Sunday she just hugs me and she said, "Boy, you come into your own."
I love that.
Come into your own. And it spoke a mouthful to me, because it really let me know that, okay, now I am who I'm supposed to be.
Gotcha.
And
not your grandfather, not your father.
Not anybody else. I come into my own.
Like I love that. Yeah.
And so now now I minister, and all that I do, it is a full embodiment of everything that's in me. But it's taken time. It's a progression. You know what I mean? It's been an incremental, movement to get me to where I am now. But I think a lot of times, a lot of people don't really know their ability.
They don't.
They define their ability according to their ambition. And so what I'm ambitious
about for comparison,
right? You know, or what I mean, with a lot of different things, whether it be in comparison or whether it's just been shaped by their paradigm, what they see.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people want to be what they see.
So we've had
you know what I mean? It's before them, and so you know, if everybody around you, I use for instance, everybody around you is a golfer, and so your ambition is to golf. You know, you begin to think that your ability is golf. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it may be, you know, it may be baseball.
Got you.
You know, and so you have to learn yourself, know yourself outside of your paradigm, outside of your sphere.
Yeah.
You know, to really know what God has called you to do, what you've been created and put on this earth to do.
Give like 3 basic. How do you find it? How do you get to know yourself?
Know God. Know God. And when I say know God, knowing His voice.
Gotcha.
And then knowing God in you. And then living that out. So know God, know who God is, you know, get a relationship with God, and then know how God has revealed Himself to you. Know what He's shown you for you.
So this is not even tied to what I do. First is knowing God.
No, I gotta get into a deep and intimate relationship with Jesus Christ. And that's just me. Now I know there are people that have it, you know.
Right.
But for me, knowing God, and then knowing God in me. Knowing the God in me, the God in me, His manifestation in my life. You doing what you're doing, all the grace that you have for conferences and for services, man. That's God using you for His glory.
Gotcha.
And so more than you just knowing what Mike was created for, that's you tapping into the God in Mike.
Gotcha.
And so I got to know God first, just you know, just generally and specifically knowing God, and then intrinsically and directly knowing Him in me. What, you know, those fireside conversations where He begins to, now this is what I have for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then after that, beginning to manifest it. What does it look like?
Snapshot on the journey of you learning the God in you. And then it came to an understanding of what you were called to. We talked about ability. So you're saying it's more than just the ambition of preaching.
Right.
But it's learning God and God revealing Himself to you. And then as a result of Him revealing Himself to you, you know what you're called to do.
Absolutely.
Talk about your
I use for example, you know, I grew up, you know, my dad, my granddad, you know, they were all traditional, you know, Baptist preachers,
right.
You know, give the introduction, the 3 points, the clothes, take it to Calvary, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He died, then he died, but early, you know what I mean? All of that. And that was me for a long time. But God, he matter of fact, He gave me a vision of while I was in a robe here in the church, preaching. While I was preaching, people were, the floor opened up and hell's fire was coming out. And while I was preaching, hooping, doing my thing, people were dying, going to hell, falling into hell.
This.
Yeah, this is my vision.
Yeah.
And He arrested me then and there. He said, okay, now do what I've called you to do. And since that day, you know, I've sought the word not from the lenses of my granddad or my dad or just preaching at all. I just looked at the word of God through His insight, what He gave me. And you know, my preaching and teaching has changed. We preach series and all kind of things that we've done. You know, it's come out of me doing it the way God called me to do it. Sure. I'm a preacher, but I'm not, you know, by no stretch of imagination am I the same preacher that my granddad was or that my father is.
Right.
You know, I'm the preacher that God has called James to be.
Gotcha.
And beautifully, it has connected with the people that are here, with the exponential growth that we're experiencing in Heavenly Vision now, because I'm preaching, and I'm not just preaching, but I'm preaching the way He's called me to preach.
But was that driven by fear since you saw the vision of hell? Is it your drive now based on, I don't want that to happen?
Heck yeah! No, listen, I mean, all right, here's the thing. You know, when we say, you know, the fear of God is the beginning of knowledge, and a lot of times people, that talks about reverence and all that kind of stuff. Man, but you look deep enough in that scripture, that talks about the sheer trepidation, watch this, the trepidation of what will happen on the opposition of you doing His will. And that should drive any and every preacher.
Yeah.
Every day I step into my pulpit, the reason why I don't get into self, because I'm afraid of what's going to happen if I allow me to be exalted as opposed to Christ. I'm afraid he'll make me drop dead, or he'll do something.
The cases lately isn't happening.
Brother, listen. listen, I don't know what he's gonna do.
Right.
He's God. He's sovereign. I can't search his understanding. And so, yeah, to a certain degree, I do have a great level of reverence and honor for God.
Right.
But I have a level of trepidation in regard to stepping out of His will.
Wow.
And outside of that, I love Him. And I wanna do, you know what I mean? And I want to do what pleases Him.
For sure.
But kind of like your parents, you love your mom and daddy. It's great. But when we're a kid, trust and believe. You still scared,
right? Because you know what they can do.
You know they can tear you up. You know what I mean?
Know what they can do.
I love. I'm gonna do right because I love them. But outside of that, man, there's still a trepidation there. Like, oh man, if I do step out, something bad gonna happen.
So this fear, trepidation is healthy.
It is healthy. I believe it is healthy. I mean,
someone will say, you don't want to cause someone to be scared or be afraid and have a phobia.
Again, we're not talking about the everyday parishioner. We're talking about the ministers to whom much is given, right? Yeah. Much is required.
Yeah.
It's kind of like people driving. Even if their license is legit and even if they're not speeding, when the cops pull up behind you, there's a certain erectness.
Because that comes to
you know
all the time.
You be like,
how's my registration? How's my insurance?
Now watch that. That fear brings about a checking in you.
I love it.
Even if you check and all of it's good, that fear brings about an immediate survey of your life.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
So good.
That's the healthy part of that fear. Now I'm not where you don't live your life or you get shut down, but that healthy balance of that fear to drive your toes.
Okay.
Keep you checking, checking
character.
Yeah.
Wow,
Okay, all right.
Wow.
All right, everything's good.
Yeah.
All right, respect.